Welcome to your English news broadcast live on ERi-TV. It's exactly 10:30 p.m. on Eritrea's local time from our headquarters at Asmara with your domestic and international news in brief. I'm Zahra Badouri, but first we'll begin with your major headlines for this broadcast. Conviction to strengthen participation in national affairs. Southern Region Activity Assessment Meeting and more. Brazil sets worrying new Amazon deforestation record in your international news. And Burkina Faso at least 16 killed in an attack on army base and more. Welcome to your domestic in brief. Eritrean nationals in the UK and Northern Ireland, as well as Tsanat Group in German, expressed a conviction to strengthen participation and contribution in the national affairs. The nationals also contributed £73,210 and €57,000 in support of the activities of Eritrean communities. Accordingly, nationals residing in West London contributed £38,450, nationals in Manchester £12,960, nationals in Lancaster £4,400, nationals in Nottingham £8,800, nationals in Sheffield £8,600, and Tsanat Group in Germany contributed €57,000. Tsanat Group comprises youth from different ages and conducts awareness-raising programs with a view to the Eritrean youth in Germany comprehend their history and identity. The Southern Region Administration held activity assessment meeting of 2021 on 6th of this April in Mendafara City. According to the report presented by Mr. Habtab Tesfatsion, governor of the region, in 2021, commendable activities have been implemented, including water and soil conservation, renovation of roads and micro dams, as well as planting tree seedlings with a view to readdress the environment, indicating that coordinating activities have been conducted on the part of government and PFDJ institutions to implement the charted out development programs aimed to restrictions to control the spread of COVID-19 pandemic. Mr. Habtab said that successful activities have been exerted to curb the spread of the pandemic, pointing out that with the ample distribution of rainfall in the rainy season, agricultural production has increased by 25% compared to that of last season. Mr. Habtab said that 319 dams and micro dams in the region have collected enough water and will have significant contribution in the development of irrigation of farming. Mr. Habtab went on to say that as part of the effort to ensure potable water supply, potable water projects have been put in place in the administrative areas of Addi Falesti, Kasad Da'ro, Adwahai, Gaza Dunkur, Sanafe, Addistah, Addi Hargets, and micro dams have also been constructed in 5 subzones of the region. Mr. Habtab also commended the residents for the contribution they extended in support of families of martyrs and to the development of teaching and learning process. The participants on their part conducted extensive discussion on the reports presented and adopted various recommendations. Cultural and Sport Week has been conducted in Hagaz town. The Objective Cultural and Sport Week that was conducted from 31st March to 2nd April was to enable students in exchange experiences among each other, as well as to identify their talents and inculcate the notable societal values among the youth. The Cultural and Sports Week that was participated by 720 students from ranging from kindergarten to junior school included general knowledge competitions as well as cultural performances, indicating that the Cultural and Sport Week will have significant contribution in nurturing competent students and in calculating the noble cultural and societal values among the students. Mr. Takhla Haymanot Musail, Managing Director at the Haggaz Subzone, called for strengthened contribution of the public with a view to better organize the program. Mr. Kiflay Anda Mikhail, head of the Ministry of Education branch in the Ansaba region, on his part said that the advantage the Cultural and Sports Week will have in the overall development of the students is not to be viewed lightly, called on the area administrators, however, and partners to play a due role in organizing similar programs in the future. At the event, various awards were handed out over to winners in the general knowledge and sports competitions. Dear viewers, up next with your international news, do stay with us for more of your global reports. And on your global news, Brazil has set a new grim record for Amazon deforestation during the first 3 months of the year 2022. Compared with a year earlier, government data showed sprung concern and worrying from environmentalists. From January to March, deforestation in the Brazilian Amazon rose 64% from a year ago to 941 square kilometers. Data from National Space Research Agency, EMPA, showed. The area, larger than New York City, is the most forest cover lost in the period since the data series began in the year 2015. Destruction of the world's largest rainforest has surged since President Jair Bolsonaro took office in 2019 and weakened environmental protections, arguing that they hinder economic development that could reduce poverty in the Amazon region. Al Jazeera's Monica Yonkyo reported from Rio de Janeiro said that new data was especially worrying because Brazil, in the midst of its rainy season, at a time when loggers typically do not cut down trees and farmers do not burn them to clear the land. Yang Su said that, in quotation, so there should be less activity, there should be less deforestation. She added that the figures came as representative of 100 indigenous tribes are in the capital Brasilia to demand more protection for their lands and denounce proposed laws that would allow the government to further exploit their rainforest. At least a dozen soldiers and 4 military fighters were killed during an attack on an army base in Burkina Faso's San Matanga province. The assault on Friday in the northern region also left more than 20 soldiers wounded, the army reported. In a statement, reinforcements were sent to secure the Namusuguma military base, where the number of casualties reported so far it's provincial, the army added. No details on how or who carried out the raid were provided through armed groups linked to Al-Qaeda and ISIL have for years attempted to gain control over a swath of terrain where the border of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger meet. The campaign of violence has killed thousands of people and forced more than 2 million to flee their homes in the Sahel region south of the Sahara Desert. In March, more than 30 people, including 13 military police officers, were killed in 3 separate armed attacks in the north part of the country. Armed violence has persisted despite the presence of thousands of foreign troops in their region. Forestations about the lack of action by the Burkinabe government led to protests that culminated in military coup in January. Turmoil in the Sahel started when fighters took over Mali's desert north in 2012, prompting France to intervene the following year in an attempt to push them back. The fighters regrouped in recent years and continue to launch attacks and seize territory. On your final report, Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett granted all security forces full freedom in quotation of operations in a bid to curb a surge in attack in Israel. The move on Friday came after a Palestinian man killed 3 people and wounded 16 others in a crowd in Tel Aviv entertainment area the night before. Bennett said that there are not and will not be limited for this war, and for that they are granting full freedom of action to the army, the Shin Bet domestic security agency, however, and all security forces in order to defeat the terror. After an all-night manhunt, Israel police said they shot dead the Palestinian gunmen who opened fire on a street of crowded bars and restaurants. A Tel Aviv hospital on Friday announced Barak Lufen, 35, who was wounded in the shooting, succumbed to his injuries. The other 2 who died in Thursday shootings were 2 men, Tomer Murad, 28, and Meitem Magni, 27. Special forces confronted the Palestinian man in the old city of Yafa, a town that was ethnically cleansed, among others, in 1948, and are home to a minority Palestinian population. Today, in quotation, eliminating the terrorists by exchange of fire, Police Commissioner Yaakov Shabati reported. He was identified as 28-year-old Rad Hazim from the occupied West Bank city of Jenin, where last week Israeli forces killed 3 Palestinians in a raid. Al Jazeera's Huda Abdul Hamid reported from Tel Aviv, said while more Israeli forces will be seen in the streets of Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, and other Israeli cities, you will, in quotation, also see more security forces, she said, in the occupied West Bank. Dear viewers, that is all for now with your domestic and international news in brief. Until we are back with some more news, stay and enjoy the rest of our programs. But until then, these are your major headlines for this broadcast in review. Conviction to strengthen participation in national affairs as your primary domestic. Southern Region Activity Assessment Meeting and Cultural and Sports Week of Schools in Hagaz. And on your international, Brazil sets worrying new Amazon deforestation records. Burkina Faso, at least 16 killed in an attack on army base, and Israeli leader grants forces full freedom for Tel Aviv attacks. That is all for now, and have a nice one.